What's going on, everybody? It's Brian Trippe. Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Live podcast. I am here in Birmingham, Alabama, and I interview the very best real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and business leaders all throughout the country. And today, we have an incredible guest that's doing everything in real estate, Mr. Andrew Lucas. How's it going today, Andrew?
It's great, man. Thanks for having me on, Brian. It's a true honor. Appreciate it.
I'm so excited to talk to you because you're doing everything. Like literally, like let's go through the list. All right, we're going to pick all these apart like one by one.
Okay.
First of all, you're in Columbia, South Carolina, and you're wholesaling. Yep. You're buying rentals. You're rehabbing. You're doing some creative things with real estate. You have the single most successful meetup group in Columbia.
Absolutely. Thank you for me. Yeah, REI Live.
We're going to talk about that, REI Live Columbia. And you're a husband, you're a father to 3 beautiful little children.
And a puppy.
You're doing it all, man. So Andrew, let's start right there. Tell everybody give everybody just kind of a glimpse of what really, I just was joking. You are doing a lot of stuff, but give people a glimpse of what you actually do in real estate.
Yeah. So our core business, the whole point of this all really is to hold cash flowing rentals to make money passively. There you go, passively. So we're doing all these other things for cash to buy more rentals or for financing or to lend, that sort of thing. So we've done it for about 12 years. So starting from the very beginning, we just saw opportunities, and as opportunities present themselves, go for it. Yeah. So that's kind of what we are. So in order to get those cash flowing rentals, we're flipping houses, we're seller financing things, holding notes, you name it, going for a lease option, subject to pretty much anything that we can do to get to that ultimate goal. Wholesaling, right. Of course, I forgot to say that.
So let's I don't want to be Debbie Downer or anything, but I really want to talk about what maybe your mentor and my mentor would say that is, you got too much going on. Is there such a thing as trying to do too much to where you kind of lose sight of what your core focus is? Or is it more of like, hey, you know what, the opportunities are here and it helps us to do our core focus, like you said, rentals, better?
Yes, there's too much. There is a point where it's too much. And let me tell you, I'll back it up from us for a couple of years. And 2019 is where we are now. Hate to date the podcast, but so go back a couple years. 2 years ago, we had about 25, 30 rental properties. We had 4 flips going, 3 kids, 1 very young child. And I was in grad school, had a full-time job, and trying to do this real estate. So that's too much, right? It was killing us. I was up all night, go to bed at 1 o'clock, back up at 5, right? You can't do that for very long. But we had an ultimate goal to get to a place where I could quit my day job, and was able to do that. So that kind of opened up more opportunities. And really, it's kind of once you get going and working in the business and you start finding these things that are popping up, these opportunities, it gets easier to tackle them without all the time and the mind being sucked into it. So putting processes in place, contacts in place, contractors that do their own deal. They know what color to paint. I had a contractor this morning, painter. He said, "Hey, I'm going to Sherwin-Williams. I'm going to get the paint. We're going to do it." And he texted me. He's like, "Same colors." I'm like, "Yeah, duh." So, we don't have to put all that energy into it. Now, if I was to start 12 years ago and try to do this, no chance.
Yeah.
No chance.
Well, Andrew, let's go ahead and back it up then, and let's kind of talk about how you actually got to where you are today. Where I asked you kind of offline, like, how long do you feel like you've been successful at real estate? And you're like, well, I feel like I'm still kind of working towards that. Which you're in a place where a lot of people would really and truly love to be right now. So let's kind of back it up. And you told me you got started in real estate as early as 2006. So. Yeah, 7. Sorry, I even wrote it down. I even said it wrong. I started in 2007. So how did you get started? What kind of tell us the story of like the background of how you actually got into real estate?
It was going through college and paying somebody else's rent. I worked all through college, right? So that rent check was coming out of my checking account, right? I didn't like it. But then I was kind of the entrepreneurial mindset. Me and a couple of buddies, we're always trying to find something to do in college to make money. We never did. But so it was that mindset of like, I don't want to pay anybody else rent. So how can I work this out? And 2007, your cat could get a mortgage apparently. So I went and actually had a roommate lined up and found a house in a college rental area. One of my buddies actually had lived in it, and it was for sale. So we bought it and paid too much for it. It was going up to the height of the market. I didn't really negotiate. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I got a mortgage, 30-year mortgage. The city, the county, and I don't know who else gave me money for first-time home buyers. So I walked away with $347 or something like that from the closing table. So it was no money down, no money out of pocket, and had a house that I was renting out the other bedrooms. So that was great. That was really just kind of, I didn't know this was where I was going to be 12 years later. That was just kind of getting started. I was like, oh, this is neat. Let's try it. Moved out of that house 10 months later, and it's been fully rented ever since. So that's just kind of how it started. And that opened my eyes to other opportunities. The house across the street came vacant. The older gentleman either passed away or whatever. And so it was vacant. We sent a letter and got that house for like $20,000 and fixed it, put tenants, put college students in it. And it just kind of I think it took us 8 years to get to 4 houses, right? So it was not like a driven plan, but the whole time I was learning, seeing opportunities, seeing what I was missing. And then we decided to put the gas down and make this a real thing. So
take me back to that moment in time where you decided to kind of put the pedal to the metal and, hey, obviously something clicked inside of you, said, hey, this thing can really take off. It can really be something. Yeah. Take us back to that moment. What happened? What made you actually feel like this could be something a lot bigger?
Yeah, it was actually a book that someone gave me, and you probably heard it before. I think it's Gary Keller, whatever, Hold. Part of his series, and it's Hold. And it's the yellow one. And it actually was saying, oh, yeah, here's a business of holding rental properties. My whole thing, those 4 we had, I was thinking this is retirement. 30 years later, mortgages will be paid off. That's retirement, right? Then I read that book and I was like, wait a second. Light bulb, this can happen now. We could do something with this now. So I read that book, then Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then I just got going, right? So started looking and then started reading Bigger Pockets and online and, finding other ways to learn different creative things. So that moment is where it turned on. So from there, we bought another rental, and then we decided to flip a house so that we could fund more rentals. So that became our game plan. Flip, get rental, flip, get rental.
Yeah.
And then, the day our third son was born, we actually had to extend the closing because we had to go to the hospital. So then the Monday after we sold that first flip, the actual flip for a rental, we sold that, and same day we put the contract in on a 5-unit complex. So that was the beginning.
Yeah. So Andrew, I think this is really interesting to talk about this because there's probably a lot of people that listen to this show that are probably primarily focused. They're probably either new or they're getting started, or maybe they've started wholesaling, or people told them, hey, you need to start wholesaling. You didn't get started that way. And it's interesting to me that there are a lot of the quote unquote gurus out there that are saying, hey, if you want to get started in real estate, you should get started in wholesaling because it's relatively easy to get going. It's relatively speaking, there's little, there's little risk,
right?
And there's little money out of pocket to start with. And there's a lot of truth to that. But there's no wealth in wholesaling. It's a transactional business. It'll always be, it's like flipping a house. It's taxed at the highest rate, all these types of things, any of the profit that you make. You, from the very beginning, were acquiring rentals and then just use some of these other strategies like a fix and flip or a wholesale to get more money in order to buy more rentals because you kind of understood that cash flow is the name of the game. And I think that that's true. I'm wearing the shirt that says cash flow. I think it's true across the board, no matter what we do. There's nothing wrong with wholesaling, nothing wrong with big paydays, obviously. There's nothing wrong with that. But we have to understand where the true wealth is. The true wealth is in the cash flow. So, Andrew, in saying all that, what is some advice you might give to someone who is a little bit newer that, after we've said all this, that cash flow is kind of the name of the game? We don't want to tell people don't wholesale. We don't want to say don't fix and flip. But what's some advice that you can give, some practical stuff that you can give to people who are looking to get started in real estate?
I think you kind of have to have a gut check. You got to figure out where are you and what's your stress level. What can you handle, and what kind of risk can you deal with? And then really you got to look at your bank account. If you've got enough money in the bank to go get a cash flowing rental and get it going and do a refinance, the whole BRRRR strategy, and use it again in a year, why would you spend all your time and energy trying to do a fix and flip with all of that risk, just to get the same gain at the end of the year? So, look, if you got money in the bank, the wholesaling is hard work. And if you got a full-time job, wholesaling it's difficult. It's really difficult to actually get a business going. I think a lot of gurus teach it and preach it because it is pretty easy, but it's not simple. Like the concept is easy, but to actually get somebody to sell you the house and wholesale and actually make money in it, it's not that easy. So if you've got the money, I'd go for cash flow, right? If you don't have the money, then you got to come up with ways to do it. And you can wholesale, Tom Kroll always says, you can wholesale watches, or something like that. Just find a way to make cash so that you can invest it and then have a plan for it. We bought a flip, we flipped it, and we used all of that to go into rentals, right? So we didn't take it and then go buy a new car. We could have, but we didn't. So if you're going to wholesale and then use that money for your cash flow. Don't just use it to expand your lifestyle. That's a waste.
Yeah. And that's Rich Dad Poor Dad. You just literally just simplified the whole entire book of Rich Dad Poor Dad. What Robert Kiyosaki says is, don't buy a doodad, quote unquote.
Yeah,
don't go buy a boat or a car or anything with the money that you make from a wholesale deal or a big fix and flip project. Take that money and buy cash flow, and then buy your little doodads with the cash flow from these assets. So I love that you said that. And then you mentioned something earlier, Andrew, about, you kind of mentioned it in passing, the BRRRR strategy. I know that the BRRRR strategy is a huge part of your business today.
Yes.
So for those that don't know what it is, explain what it is, but also talk about how it's been able to be such a big influence in your business.
Yeah, so the BRRRR strategy is really what catapulted us into where my wife and I could both retire last year. And the BRRRR strategy, simply put, is you buy a house that's undervalued for whatever reason, rehab it, so put some money into it, make it nice, rent it out, get some good rent, good tenants, and then refinance. And so the benefit is you use your money and then you get it back. So then you could use it again. And, we're shooting for like a 6-month turnaround on that refinance. So essentially, easy math, if I have 50 grand to buy and do a house, a renovation and rent, I could do it twice a year. So it just compounds our cash. And that's what we did with that 5 unit. We refinanced right out of it and then got a duplex, I think, right after that. So that's the strategy to grow that cash flow quickly. And that's just how you use, if you start with 100 grand, you can use it once, then use it twice, and then use it 3 times. Yes, you're getting leverage and, debt, but it's being paid off by the cash flow.
Yeah. It's such a powerful tactic because, like you said, it's a way to really, truly fast forward. A lot of people want to, to get rich quick, which I don't really believe exists. Right. But if something does exist to kind of accelerate you and propel you forward quickly, it's going to be the BRRRR strategy. Literally, like we call it recycling money. You're using the same money over and over. And if you can find the right lender or quote unquote lenders, probably portfolio guys, probably small local banks, you can do this. you probably as many times as you want to, as many times as you can find decent deals. So I think that's a really powerful strategy. Andrew, talk more about, I want to hear more about your story.
Okay.
You said you recently quit your job, and it hasn't been that long. Not even a year, I don't think.
Not quite a year, no.
So just talk about that. There's somebody out there I know who's listening to this, who's maybe dabbled in real estate, done a little bit of real estate. What specifically gave you, I don't want to say the permission, but gave you the ability?
My wife gave me the permission.
Well, what gave you the ability to, because that's scary. That's especially someone who has a safe, secure,
Right.
good paying job. That can be scary. Like, what were the conditions for you to be able to do that? And maybe some advice you could give someone who might be leaning more towards that.
Yeah. And, gosh, it's still scary. It is. Like, we're it. I don't make money today. We don't get a paycheck, right? So it's still a little scary. But what gave us the permission, and just to kind of back it up, I had a job in hospitality. So a lot of hours, odd hours. It was tough to do this business, but we had to work it out. But the permission came when we had the cash flow. And, coming right back to it, we literally, my wife and I put a goal that we would, when our middle child was going to school, which just happened, we wanted to both be out of our jobs. We wanted one of us to retire last year in 2018. And so we actually fast forward, we had enough cash flow that we could both do it. And what happened is we literally bought a mobile home park, and that cash flow was designated to offset our bills, right? That was just paying our mortgage, car payments, things that had to be paid, right? And then all these other cash flow things, we just kind of put them in and started filling the bucket of what our paycheck was. When that bucket got full or almost full, we kind of jumped the gun, but we jumped the gun because we found wholesaling, and we said, this is it. We've got the cash flow. Yeah. I mean, it's not always the same, right? It's not always the same. We're still flipping. So we always have that as a cushion and backup, but we had money in the bank. Obviously I would not have done it without money in the bank. But money in the bank and cash flow. And so those rentals, it's just we're not going to lose 50 rental units overnight.
Right.
10% vacancy, we still get our bills paid. And, 3 kids and a puppy, it's tough. It's a little scary, but we did it. I mean, pulled the ripcord and jumped, and it's been great so far. So
you've mentioned that puppy like 3 times. That thing must be like really like high maintenance.
He is high energy, all over the place. Let me tell you, golden doodle, if you want one.
Oh, those things get big, don't they?
No, this is the mini. So he's only 40 pounds ish.
So Andrew, there's someone out there listening to this, and I heard you say a lot of stuff right there. The conditions that made it right for you. That's probably not for everybody, but made it right for you and your family, for you to be able to quit your job. You mentioned your wife, Michelle, quit her job as well, which is a huge deal. You laid out some pretty strict kind of, benchmarks that you guys were shooting for and hit. Some people out there are just like, I did my first wholesale deal and I'm quitting because I just made more money on my first wholesale deal than I make a half a year salary. But and I know that money can be gone quick.
Yeah.
So talk about that for a second, that you guys, like, you had an actual plan, and how important is it to have a very strict plan before you go and do something like pulling that ripcord?
Yeah. It's, before I was married and had kids, maybe I'd have done it with, one deal, right? Because it's just me. But man, with the whole family, everybody, wife, kids, house, all these things, it's not very prudent to go into it without a plan. And that plan, we set that plan in place 4 years ago-ish. So, it was, a good 4 or 5 year plan that we had to work towards and had to continue to go towards. And I'm not going to tell you it was easy. Like when I say I was up till 1 o'clock in the morning and up again at 4 or 5, small kids, sleep was not always there. And, it put stress on the family, and it was tough. It really was tough, but there was a goal and there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And so now we're in a new tunnel, so, it's like you said, it was strict. We were not going to pull the ripcord without the safety net of cash in the bank and cash flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. One wholesale deals, yes, it's more money you may have made all year or half a year, but that can go very fast.
Yeah, trust me, I know. Especially for people that never had it. All of a sudden you see a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 wholesale deal or fix and flip, whatever it is. And that money, say you buy a new car, say you pay off some debt. Now all of a sudden, where are you? You're right back to square one. So I'm a big believer in that too. That's awesome. Before I let you go, Andrew, I want to, last kind of little section of this podcast, I want you to talk about your meetup group. You host REI Live in Columbia, South Carolina. Tell everybody who might be, might live around that area, even, anywhere near the area, what they might be able to expect. First of all, when are the meetings, and what might they be able to expect if they come?
Yes. So our meetings are once a month, and we do a little podcast or conference call in between that. But once a month, usually at same hotel, 6 p.m. we get started. What to expect? It's no sales pitch, right? This is a networking, education, and deal making group. Okay, so we come in there. The very beginning is networking and deal making. So we are there. If somebody's trying to sell something, buy something, we're there with 50, 100 people that those deals can get done. So that's what we want to do. Then we do education and motivation. So usually we have about 15 or 20 minutes where I might speak about local market situations, anything new, like we had a new law come into place here in Columbia or in South Carolina that can hurt some people with different real estate stuff. So we talk about local, then we do a little bit of motivation, like, get out there and do something. Just yesterday we talked discipline, right? So we went over discipline. And then we bring an expert. Usually it's about half and half. So we'll have a local expert or we'll have a national expert, somebody that's doing this in another market all over the country, something like that. So yesterday's local expert was on lease options. So we went to lease options, other creative financing situations, owner finance, you name it. And it's a deep dive. We do Q&A. So it's not just a pitch from the front of the room. It's like Q&A, questions and answers from whoever's talking. So they have to be true experts. They got to know what they're talking about. And so they bring a ton of value to our group, to Columbia, because a lot of them aren't from Columbia. Yeah. So it's a great group, great networking. Seriously, we've had tons of deals bought and sold right there, and a lot of education too.
It's awesome. That's awesome stuff. And that's, for me, speaking kind of selfishly, everything that you just got done saying embodies what REI Live is supposed to be, what real estate investing live. That's the whole live component. We want to do deals. We want to emphasize deal making, community. We want to emphasize these things that I feel like, and I know that you probably feel like too, is like the old RIA culture just doesn't really embrace that and never really has. And that's why I think REI Live exists. And for you to kind of take the reins of that in Columbia, you and Michelle have just done an incredible job. And I'm super, super proud of you guys.
Yeah. And we appreciate you putting us in the driver's seat for there. And, the REI Live group is growing, and we love, we get it great in Columbia, but the connection between Birmingham, Atlanta, and Florida and all that, it's just phenomenal to be a part of that group. And Columbia's a cash flow market. So we're expecting a good market for the next foreseeable future. So when people come in, they get started. Like you can make deals happen pretty quick. So
it's awesome stuff. Guys, if you are in Columbia, South Carolina, Charleston, Greenville, Augusta, Georgia area, Charlotte even, like if you're in any of this little kind of like an hour radius or so of Columbia, you need to get down there to Andrew's events. Andrew, how can people find out when the events are, and how can they get in touch with you specifically?
The easiest way to find the event is probably meetup.com, REI Live-Columbia. We're there. Facebook group is REI Live !Columbia. So you can come there. Yeah. All right. we need to change that. But anyway, so you can check us out, Facebook, meetup.com. You can also email me. I don't know if you want to put a link in, or it's easy. It's just andrew@lucasproperties.biz. Super easy. Shoot me an email and I'll get you on the list. So.
Perfect. And guys, we will put all that in the show notes. So if you missed something that Andrew just said, just go back to the show notes and click on those links. We'll have all those links in there, including Andrew's email address. Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the show and providing us with great value. I think there are a lot of people out there who are in that spot right now who, do I quit my job? Do I not quit my job? What do I need to do specifically? What kind of benchmarks? I think you gave people a lot of great perspective on what it actually takes to quit your job and go full-time in real estate. So I really do appreciate that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Guys, hit the subscribe button. We got a ton of incredible guests on the horizon. You want to get those notifications, so make sure you hit subscribe. We love you so much, and we'll see you next time.